If the NHL playoffs were to start today, who would win the Stanley Cup? Let's break it down. Now, breaking this down, not by points percentage, just by current points, disregarding games played. Let's go. In first place, you would have the Florida Panthers, led by a resurging Sergei Bobrovsky. You got Barkov, you got Huberdeau, you got Reinhart, you got everyone. This team doesn't even have enough room for Vetrano and Tippett to make the actual team. They are 7-3 in their last 10. They've lost one game, 69 points in 47 games played. They would be first in the Eastern Conference. In second, you would have the Metropolitan Division top team, the Carolina Hurricanes, 64 points in 42 games. They are on a 4-game win streak, 7-2-1. Looking at the Atlantic Division, 2 and 3 would be the Tampa Bay Lightning, followed by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Both teams are 7-2-1 in their last 10. Tampa Bay have played 4 more games than the Leafs, but that doesn't matter. Points are 66-61 right now. That is a tight race right there. Tampa Bay has 30 wins to Toronto's 29. 2 and 3 in the Metropolitan, you'd have the New York Rangers and Pittsburgh Penguins, 64 points and 62 points respectively. Penguins on a 4-game skid right now. Then, in 7th, you would have the Washington Capitals, 59 points in 47 games, followed by the Boston Bruins, 55 points in 43 games. Now let's break down the Eastern Conference and who would move on to the Stanley Cup Final. Now looking at the Panthers and Bruins, honestly, you can never, and I repeat, never count out the Boston Bruins. However, the Florida Panthers, top to bottom, might be the scariest team in the NHL just based on sole domination by this team. They are still underrated, even though they're the top team in the league with 69 points. The Avalanche in the Western Conference are second with 68. The Panthers are so good, I see them dominating the Boston Bruins and winning in 5 games. Sticking with the Atlantic Division, they're 2 and 3, Tampa Bay versus Toronto. And even though I'm a Toronto fan, and I know this could be the year, it is the Tampa Bay Lightning, and somehow they'll make it work. I can see this being a tight series, 1 game each going like a 6-3 win for the Lightning, a 5-2 win for the Leafs, but it'll be like a 1-goal game, 1-goal series, and it will go to Game 7. And will Toronto finally triumph? Yes. Yep, bold prediction right here. Toronto Maple Leafs will beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in 7 games. You have the Carolina Hurricanes versus the Washington Capitals. And Alex Ovechkin, even though he wins the Rocket Richard this year, he's just lights out playing. Carolina is too deep, and they can just roll line after line after line. It overwhelms the Capitals. Capitals lose in 6. Then you have the Rangers and the Penguins. You can't count out Crosby. You can't count out Malkin. Though Jari struggled last year in the playoffs, he's had a good year this year. Igor Shesterkin puts the Rangers on his back like he's done this year, and they beat the Penguins in 6. This would then lead into the Panthers versus the Maple Leafs, the Hurricanes versus the Rangers. Let's start with the Hurricanes and Rangers. This year, the Hurricanes are just unstoppable. They beat the New York Rangers in 6 games. Again, roll line after line after line. Shesterkin's exhausted after that Game 7 win against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Hurricanes beat the Rangers in 6 games. Panthers versus the Maple Leafs. For this one, we're going 7 games again. The Maple Leafs are going 7 games again, but this time they can't beat Florida. And I'm just going to predict now, Florida ends up dominating like 4-0 in Game 7. That means your Eastern Conference Final will be Florida versus the Hurricanes. I know. I didn't pick any undercard guys or wild cards here. It's Florida, it's the Hurricanes, the 2 best teams. They go all the way through. They go to Game 7, and I think it's actually the Carolina Hurricanes and Freddie Anderson, a new Freddie Anderson in the playoffs. They get to Bobrovsky early and often, and somehow the Carolina Hurricanes topple the Florida Panthers in 6 games. Moving on to the West now, you have the Avalanche in first with 68 points. Second place would be Pacific Division leaders, the Vegas Golden Knights. You got 2 and 3 in the Central Division. You have the Nashville Predators and Minnesota Wild. In 7th spot, you would then have the St. Louis Blues. 2 and 3 from Pacific will be the Kings and the Ducks. And right now, the Calgary Flames would be in 8th. So, what would happen in the West? And who would meet the Carolina Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup final? Well, let's start with the Avalanche. They will play the Calgary Flames and absolutely decimate them. Yes, that's right. They would decimate them. I'm going to go in 5 games. The Golden Knights would then play the Blues. And on the back of Vinny Husso, he takes the job from Binnington. He brings the Blues to Game 7. But the Golden Knights and Robin Lehner say, and Jack Eichel is there in the lineup. The Golden Knights win in 7 to knock off the St. Louis Blues. Predators and Wild, 2-3 in the Central. I'm going to go the Minnesota Wild, the hottest team in the NHL right now, not named the Colorado Avalanche. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10, 6 straight wins, 28-10-3. Kaprizov's on it, Talbot's on it, their whole team's on it. The Predators, even though they have looked good, they've been a good team this year. The Wild are just too much. Wilds beat the Predators in 6. And then the unlikely 2-3 in the Pacific Division right now, the LA Kings and Anaheim Ducks, they're going to 7 games. Who's going to win? And it's going to be on the back of John Gibson. John Gibson plays lights-out hockey. He outduels quick. They're even throughout. Gibson outduels them. In 7 games, the Anaheim Ducks beat the LA Kings. The Ducks, after beating the LA Kings, then have to play the Colorado Avalanche, and I feel bad for him. Like Shesterkin, Gibson gave it his all. He's just overwhelmed by the Avalanche. Nathan McKinnon, Nazem Kadri, Rantanen and Landeskog, Makar, all of them just go, go, go. They beat the Ducks in 5 games. The Wilds then play the Vegas Golden Knights. The Golden Knights can't hold on. They can't beat the Minnesota Wild. They're too fast. They're too big. And they're just on a roll. Yes, it's going to be Minnesota and the Colorado Avalanche in the Western Conference Final. So who wins the final? The Western Conference Final. Minnesota Wild, Avalanche. The Wild have had the Avalanche's number over the past, you name it, how many years. This year, Avalanche, they've done all right against Minnesota, and that's going to continue. It will go to Game 7. I'm going to go Game 7 in overtime, and I am picking Nazem Kadri, the former Toronto Maple Leaf, scores in overtime. Yes, he's playing all playoffs. He's not getting suspended. That's a bold prediction. The Avalanche are off. Yes, they are the top team. They're off against the second-best team in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes. Well, in this case, before that, the third-best team. But the second-best team here, the Avalanche versus the Carolina Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup Final. The final that we all expected, well, I did anyway, last year. So who's going to hoist the Stanley Cup in 2022? It'll be in 7 games. It will not be in overtime, but it is your Carolina Hurricanes. That's my prediction right now. Mark it down. Carolina is going to beat the Colorado Avalanche in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final.